Hey everyone, this is the 8th indie devlog episode of 2D action RPG Resonant Blade. Last time we went over some of the enemy interactions, sound effects, and an environmental rain effect. In this episode, I want to show some more of the tile sets and world building that I started on. Most of this is pretty new to me, so it's been a little slower than usual, a bunch of trial and error, but things are starting to look better and better. We'll be going over the new tile set for Ionia City, how the player interacts with the tiles, and a rough design of the Citadel District. Most of what I've been doing now is geared towards getting a playable demo out. I decided to work on some world building and more specifically the city of Ionia. I'm not really an artist, so I needed to find some solid references that I liked a lot. I really like the look and aesthetic of Hyperlight Drifter. I used that and some other games like Crosscode to get an idea of how to create these tiles and make them look like they fit in a 2D top-down game. I already had some of the darker walls and floors built from before, but I needed to add in a lot more to actually make a city. I started by adding in some grass, landscaping, trees, and foliage. From there, I moved on to different floor types meant to be layered on top of a base floor. I added in some interior walls and more props like computer terminals, desks, chairs, whiteboards, and flying vehicles. Well, they're not flying yet, but I really like how they turned out, and I'm going to have to add some flying functionality to them eventually. Now that I had a working tile set, I needed to focus on the design and layout of the city itself. I started using the built-in tile map editor in Unity, and so far it's working great. I can import sprites into my assets directory, initialize their settings, and drag them into a tile palette. From there, I can create as many layers with different sorting orders, and then paint them with any of the tiles on the scene view. The first few maps that I created were mainly used for testing purposes to see if the tiles lined up and looked okay. I also tried messing around with animated tiles. Basically, you can create an animated tile object and place multiple sprites within it. Then you add this tile to the palette and then paint it onto the map. The speed of the animation can also be adjusted in the tile map layer. After testing the tile set a little bit, I noticed that there was some sprite tearing around the edges. Anytime the camera moves around, the tiles would jitter or shift by a pixel, causing an empty line to appear on the screen. I made sure to disable anti-aliasing, but the problem persisted. The best solution I found for now was to draw in the edge pixels to go over the 32 by 32 tile by 1 pixel. This would ensure that the same pixel would be shown even when the tiles jitter. I didn't find this solution until after I created most of the tiles already, so I've kind of had to go back and rework most of them. But after testing and reworking the tiles, that's when I started creating the Citadel District. This area is on the northern edge of the city and is home to the Citadel and Proto Labs. In the background behind the Citadel is a really crude looking biodome with a polluted sky. This is really just a placeholder background for now. I really want to add a parallax effect to the biodome, sky, and terrain background layers so that they're moving at different rates in relation to the camera. And also getting the perspective and scale right for this is really going to be the most important thing. Now I want to talk about the player's interaction with the tiles and the game world. Although the different tile map layers were being sorted and layered correctly, the player's sprite would always end up on top of all of them. For the floors, this works out just fine. But for other things like trees, props, foliage, doorways, and other structures, I needed to figure out how to make the sprite sorting interactive and dynamic. Instead of using the tile map editor for these objects, I ended up adding their sprites separately and attaching them to game objects within the scene. I added a script that would reorder their sorting layer based on their Y position in the game world. So basically, objects closer to the bottom of the screen would be in the foreground and have a higher sorting layer number, while objects closer to the top of the screen would be in the background and have a lower sorting layer number. This works well in most cases, but it will always flip the sprite order based on the sprite's center position. So I added in an offset that can be set for each object so that the player will end up in the right sorting order without any weirdness happening. After that, adding collision to these objects was pretty easy. I just had to add a small collision area to where the player couldn't enter, making sure to leave room behind the object as well. A couple of other things I also added into the game world are some lampposts with some animated lighting, and some guards stationed by the Citadel entrance. Alright, so that's it for this episode. For next time, I want to try to add in transitions into interiors, and then also try to finish the building of the city. I also want to start building the tunnel cave area outside of the city. If you want to see more frequent updates, you can follow me on Twitter, which I finally started using, and if you like the video, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.